Back on the Mecpow laser. Got it sitting right here. I'm going to put it on a baseboard. I'm going to make a layout grid for it. There's a couple things I need to point out though. I've made a couple changes. I'll be making a couple more changes, and I'll get you in close here. I'll show you what they are. This is actually not mounted yet. It's just sitting there on that baseboard. I was playing around with what mounts I could use, or if I had to design a mount for it. These are actually made for the SculptFun S6 and S9 laser, and they just happen to fit these legs perfect. On the motherboard corner, I did have to make a little bitty notch right here in the mount, but that was easy, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel here, so to speak. So what's the purpose of these mounts? Well, once this is mounted, like I said, they're not permanent yet, they're just sitting there. There we go. Once everything is in there and mounted, if I decide to take this laser off and take it somewhere and do something, when I go to put it back, it'll be in exactly the same spot. I've done this on my other lasers before. Okay, I'm using 1/2" MDF for a base, and I'll be laying out a grid on it. Okay, here's where we get into the little thing here about this work area. It's supposed to be 410 millimeters square. I've already run a test on the y-axis. I did a separate video on that, and I'll link it at the end about testing your laser engraving area. It's my actual engraving area this way is 408 millimeter. My engraving area this way, with the air assist nozzle on, is 385 millimeter. Because this sticks out, it hits this over here before it reaches its full potential. So what I'm going to do this layout grid is I'm going to remove this nozzle or connection from the side to lay out my grid. So I'll still have I'm going to do a 400 millimeter square grid. I'll still have a 400 millimeter square grid with my center and everything on it. And then I'm going to make a line on that grid as a reminder of where that 385 millimeter barrier is when the air assist is on there. Another thing I have done was the air assist line that came with it. As you can see, it just curls itself right back up. And when I originally put this together, it was rather chilly in here. I've got it warmed up today. It's like it's 66 in here, so that's not bad. But I took this in the house and tried to heat this up, and no matter what you do, it just curls back up. So I'm going to replace this with a different tubing. This is 6 millimeter OD, 4 millimeter ID, pretty common size. I'll see if I can't find some silicone or vinyl. This polyurethane, or it says polyurethane right on it, has too much of a memory. So that's going to get changed. I'm also going to make it a little bit longer and maybe do something a little bit different with the routing on it. We'll see here. First, I need to get this thing mounted, take that air assist nozzle off, and then we'll put a grid on here. Oh, and the baseboard here, this is 24-inch square piece of MDF, 1/2" MDF. Alrighty then, got this thing mounted to the baseboard there. A little bit of dust on it yet. I did give that a little bit of a light sanding. So what I need to do now is set my focus. And since I'm going to be engraving on this, I need to set my focus to this point. So take the little focus card there, drop this down. Now, something I did check before I put these particular mounts on here was that this would still reach all the way down to the baseboard. A lot of times I use a honeycomb board, and then you lose about yay much. So this set of mounts on here actually raises the laser up about 10 millimeters. So now we're focused on the baseboard. Get this thing turned on. I have also removed the air assist nozzle here, and I've got a 400 millimeter square grid loaded up in here. So what I'm going to do before I do anything here is frame this. Now I have this graphic for this grid set in the center, because although this is a 410 millimeter square, actually it's 408 that way, and it's probably about the same this way. I want to make sure I don't run into anything. So set this off to framing and make sure my cable doesn't get caught on the laptop. So everything looks good so far, no bumps. I do have my framing rate set somewhat slow. You can speed that up, it's possible. There's settings in Lightburn you can do to speed that framing rate up. But I like to have it slow like this, so that if I need to make any changes with, let's say I have a project here and I need to move it a little bit, I can do it while it's still framing and make up for any differences in there. So as I mentioned, there is a 385 millimeter limit traveling this way when the air assist nozzle is on there. So I'll be making an extra line on my grid, and I'll make it extra dark as a reminder of how far I can go. Now I've added my extra line in there, I'm going to get this started. Okay, I'm going to have a couple of double lines here on the first 4 passes there, because I had to restart this. This cable here actually caught on the front corner of the control panel here and stalled the laser. I had to get back and start it over, and it made it jump by a couple steps. I'll have to find a better solution for this here. I think another tie wrap up here would help, because this is the one that was catching up here. Of course, I can't do it when it's running, really. Well, since it caught again, I did manage to do that while it was moving. Just had another wire tie there. I'll cut off that tag end after everything's done here. That's keeping it from catching on the control panel in the front. So if you're running into that problem, there's a hole there already. Just need a little wire tie, and that'll take care of it. Now, you may think that the laser is skipping some lines. It's not. That is a different layer. It burns that one darker so that I can identify that at every 50 millimeters. And it'll catch that on the next layer. And if you're doing this and happen to think that it's not really engraving dark enough, you can always do it twice. This layout grid is available as a free download from our website, and I'll put a link in the description on where you can go to get it. It's a 400 millimeter square grid. I also have a 400 millimeter by 385 for unique situations, and I was almost going to use it here, but I decided it'd be better to just use this one here, have everything centered, and just put that reminder line on there about where not to put things when the air assist nozzle is on there. And here's a preview of what I'm actually engraving. Well, the settings here are set up for a 10 watt laser. If you were to use these settings on, let's say, a 20 watt laser, your lines would be really, really dark. And if you were going with a 40 watt laser, you may start burning holes. So you're going to have to make adjustments on the speed and power for whatever you are working with. And now we're running on the horizontal lines. I should probably turn my fan on. It's going to get smoky in here. I could have done this in an enclosure like the one you see there, and actually the fan duct is hooked up to that, and I opened up the cover to kind of suck this smoke out of here, and it's actually working. However, if I would have put this in the enclosure, then it'd be really hard to video what it's doing. The dark line for the air assist nozzle boundary, and I'm going to put some lettering on there too as a little bit of a reminder. So there's my completed grid, and as you can see over there on the right hand side, it's in a little bit of a shadow there. I put the little message next to that. It says air assist line, so I won't forget when I'm trying to lay out a project on here. And I got my air assist nozzle back there, fitting back on there. I've got some much more flexible vinyl tubing here I'm going to use for the air assist. I'll just plug that in there, and I'm going to move this all the way over here so I can kind of get a feel on where I need to put some ties. So we're going to try that out when I do a little test card here for cutting. I'm using a different air pump. I'm using the Ortur air pump because I had more Ortur laser out here, and this air pump actually has a little bit more volume to it. So now I need to get a honeycomb board on here and a little piece of something to run a test on. I got a little scrap 1/8" plywood here. I'm just going to run a little quick test on this. So I need to do first is set my focus, and I'm going to have to 3D print me a focus card holder for this so I don't lose that. I did peel the paper off of it finally, so we'll let this down to where it's just on it. Pull the card out. I'll send this home, and I'll get my test grid loaded up. Little test grid is power scale, and it'll give me an idea of the cutting capacity of this one. I have other 10-watt lasers, so I've got a pretty good idea of what results are going to be. We'll send this out here. I'm working from absolute coordinates. This is set in the center. It takes about 12 minutes to complete. As you see on there, on the right hand side, it's the speed in millimeters per minute. And across the top is the power scale and percentages of power, starting with 10% and running up to 100% in 10% jumps. And it makes a little square for each one, and then we can, of course, just line engrave, and we'll actually find out how well this will cut on this 1/8" plywood. Actually 2.5 millimeter to be exact. This right here is an example of what a completed power scale looks like, test cut. This is not from this laser. This is from a 20-watt laser. On this laser head works very, very well. I don't even need to put my goggles on unless I get around behind the laser, because from this side it's very, very distorted, and it is not bright at all. Normally a lot of those shields you can't really look at them very long unless you have goggles or safety glasses on. Okay, so here's our completed grid. And a couple of these should come out. May need to use a pencil on some of those, but don't just fall out. Now, some of those are not cut completely through, so you don't want to push those out. This will give you an idea of your speed and power you need to use to cut this particular material. So there we are. Got this mounted to a board. Like I said, I can take this off if I need to, go somewhere with it. When I put it back on, it'll be exactly the same spot. My layout grid will be perfect. Got my layout grid on there, of course, as you saw. And that file is available on our website, and I'll put a link in the description. It's a free download. These mounting feet, we also sell these on our website. It's for the Sculpt Fun S6 and S9. You will need to make a little bit of a teeny notch in the one by the motherboard over here, but it's very, very easily done. Your little pair of snippers like this would even do it. I will try to get that modified on the website and also mention the Mecpow laser on there. So again, just if you're new to this, this is kind of how to determine if you're going to be doing some cutting or engraving. You can also make these to engrave. You can do it right in Lightburn, in fact. Always run a test on your material. And even though we buy sheets and sheets and sheets of this, every time I get a new batch, I'll run a test, because from batch to batch, manufacturing, there could be a little bit of difference. Also measure the thickness. This is 2.5 millimeter, this particular piece. Sometimes it's 2.4 or 2.6 or 2.7. And if you're making boxes that have tabs that need to fit together, this isn't going to work if you don't measure your material first. So now that I've had a little bit more time to play with this, and I'm experienced, I have a lot of lasers. I think I've got 19 of them or so, plus a CO2, plus an IR. So yeah, I've got lots of lasers I've been playing with. So what do I think of this? Well, I think the price on this is $299. 10 watt laser. If you're looking at entry level without breaking the bank, and it does come with an air assist pump, I mean, that's a great deal for the budget you're getting in there. Anything bad about this? Just a couple of little things, and I wouldn't really call them bad. The fact that this air assist nozzle connection sticks out so far from the head, you lose some working area over here. And that's, as you saw when I did that grid, I made a mark there so that I don't lay out some material that's going to end up over there, because this will crash into the bar over there. Found that out on a different project test I was doing to show how to find out what your boundaries are. One other thing I should mention is a little switch in the back here for the flame detection. So there's a little eye right here that looks at what you're doing, and if it detects a flame, it'll shut the laser off. That's what that's there for. So you want to leave it on. So when would you shut it off, or why would you shut it off? You can't use this in the sun. If the sun's shining in the window or it's shining in the door, and this flame detection sensor sees that ultraviolet sunlight, it's going to shut your laser down. And when they first came out with this feature, I kind of found that out the hard way. I had several lasers set up on the other side of the shop, all on a table and all running at once. And I opened the overhead door. Nice day. Sun was coming up in the east. The shop doors face the east. As soon as I opened that door, the two lasers that had those flame detection sensors on them immediately shut down. And I thought, what in the world here? And it took me a little while to figure out what was going on. Of course, with those, there's no switch. So the options were to either leave the door shut, wait till afternoon when that's in the shade, or put a piece of tape over it. And that's what I actually did. But when I was done, I did take that tape off. Don't disable that and leave it disabled. That's a safety feature. It's there for a reason. All right, this being an entry-level laser, it doesn't have all the little bells and whistles of some of the $1,000 ones. But it does have some features on here that you don't normally see on a laser in this price category. One is the key switch on there. You can take that key and turn it off, take the key out, go hide it somewhere. So if the kids decide they want to play, they can't do anything, can't even turn it on. It has an emergency stop, that's nice. If something goes awry and you just bang, you hit this, boom, shuts it off. To reset it, just give it a little bit of a quarter turn to the right, and you're good to go again. Focus, you have a little card here. Actually, I'm going to make a focus card holder on one of my 3D printers to put this in here so I don't lose it. The higher end models actually have a little kickstand that folds down or drops down and then retracts, but not in the $300 price range. You won't find that. So there's something else. Just don't lose this. If you do lose it, you could make something. Looks like about 2.5 millimeter thick. I could kind of compare it here. Yeah, it's 2.5 millimeters thick. So if you should lose this, you use your 2.5 millimeter plywood, I guess. But try not to lose that. Any other quirks? Well, my biggest one here was this tubing that they sent for the air assist that has a memory that you just can't seem to get rid of. Even though I tried to heat it up and stretch it, it didn't work. So I'm using some silicone tubing here that I have. I use it on a lot of my other lasers. The air pump that comes with this is adequate for a 10 watt laser. I'm not using it right now because this one was already sitting here because I've been using that laser for a bunch of orders we have. So this is here, use it. Works the same. It does have more air output than the one that comes with this laser, but this is also designed for a much higher power laser. So the pump that comes with it will work just fine. I also suggest you add a wire tie up here on the X-axis cable here, because when it's all the way over here to the left side and it retracts all the way back, because of the curl in this, it will catch on the front of this controller, as you saw with my first few double lines there. I had to reset it. I have since put a wire tie there, and that solved that problem. Otherwise, the cable management on this is actually pretty good. This doesn't get out into the work area or anything. It stays over here where it's supposed to. Doesn't get tangled on anything, so that's a plus there. So again, from the assembly video, the Mecpow did provide this laser to me to test and demonstrate and do all that kind of good stuff. And I'm actually going to do a beginner laser project on this here shortly, and we're going to be engraving ceramic plate, and I'm going to use this laser to do it. So if you'd like to get one of these, there'll be a link in the description. You can grab them on Amazon, of course, like a lot of things. And if you would happen to purchase one, which I think would be great if you do, I do receive a small commission on that, but it doesn't increase your price. It just kind of helps pay for some of the things around here. So if you got anything out of this, appreciate getting the thumbs up. Always helps the channel. And of course, we're always looking for subscribers. Make sure you check out the playlist, which I will put up here somewhere for beginner laser projects, as long as a link to putting one of these together in detail if you need to see something like that. Thanks for watching. I'm Roger in the shop. We'll see you on the next one.